Hey bitches, and welcome to Let's Conversate. I'm your host, Dean Misdale, and now we're 4 episodes in, but some of you are probably still asking, what the hell is Let's Conversate? Let's Conversate is my brand new podcast where each episode I will have a different special guest sit down with me, and you guessed it, we're going to conversate. They might be someone I know from the industry, someone I've worked with, someone I've known for a long time, or someone I find really damn interesting. And there's only one way to start today's podcast, and that is, ladies and gentlemen, Matthew Landis.
So I'm the one that she's known forever.
And Matthew is with 2 T's.
2 T's, love. It's not hard. It's biblical, literally.
And I have come prepared. I did have a Pirin tablet on the way here.
Yeah, me too. I had to stop for a large Coke on the way just in case.
Frozen or just
normal.
post-mix?
Yeah, no, post-mix.
Post-mix, yeah, of course. Matthew and I have known each other for...
Probably almost 15 years.
Probably about 15 years.
Yeah.
So give everyone a quick rundown of who you are and what you do.
So I'm a florist and I have stores both here in Adelaide and
we're in Perth.
blah. Yeah, we're in Perth. So she's big business in short, but I've known Dean because obviously I did drag for over a decade. Yeah. So that's how we got to know each other in the beginning.
And the first question I always ask people is, how did we meet? We met on MySpace.
Yes.
This is how we're going back now.
Yes.
We met on MySpace. And a lot of people don't know that I'm from Sydney because I've lived in Perth for so long now. It's 12 years. And
I'm sorry, I'm responsible for that.
We'll get to this as well.
Yeah,
people always say, why did you move to Perth? Well, ask Matthew Landis.
Yeah.
No, so we met on MySpace and then
MySpace.
You came to Sydney for the Diva Awards.
That's right,
and you were there with Delta.
Oh, God, yeah. God, that is going back that far.
That was the year I wore the Supre bag dress to
Bloody
the
hell,
to the
that's
Divas.
right. Yeah.
So, and then you came back and forth to Sydney
Was
times.
that the taxi year?
No, that was a couple. I was already living in Perth that year.
Oh, you had the trade. And we're at the same.
Yes,
that's right. That's right.
Like I've got notes. I always come in with notes, but today's episode is just going to be a year of screaming at each other, an hour of screaming at each other. So we met on Facebook.
No, this was before. This was back in the day of MSN chat love.
Yes. So we met on MySpace, and you'd come to Sydney a couple of times before I came to Perth. You performed at the Palace Hotel, which is a little venue in Sydney. It's still there. But
have they paid you?
Oh, yes, I did. I had to send the debt collectors on those decades ago. This is the thing. Don't ever fuck with me in invoices. No. So, and then I came to Perth one year for a Pride.
That's right.
And then literally like a couple of months later, I moved here.
I was like, you got to get here, girl.
Yeah, so I was living in Sydney and I was working all over Oxford Street and...
But you were mainly DJing back then.
I was mainly DJing. I was DJing at Arc, the Imperial, all over the place, the Palace Hotel, of course. Yep. And the Imperial was about to close for a renovation.
That's right.
I had just finished my first ever production show, which was at Stonewall with Portia Turbo.
Which went for about 6 months.
Yep, ran for months and months.
Yeah.
And I was kind of at this point where I was like, oh, what do I do next? And... Well, Perth
I was
just
like, come on,
presented
girl.
itself.
Yeah, there was a huge gap over here. And it was
so
really
I came
important.
to Perth and within a week of living here, I was a resident DJ at the Court Hotel.
And a resident in my house.
Yes, and well, we'll talk about that. These are all things I've got written down. It wasn't a house.
Let's go there. Yeah.
Matthew Landis wrote the dossier of dialogue.
The dialogue. Yeah.
So a lot of the catchphrases, especially in Australia, different cities and different drags have different lingo. Mm-hmm. And the Perth...
Well, you were the first person that I'd ever heard say ooh-ah. Ooh-ah. It's a Sydney thing. Ooh-ah. Do you know what I mean?
That was a very Tora Hyman thing.
Yeah.
And now Lady Kinme says that she's like, ooh-ah.
Ooh-ah. It's very East Coast.
Sydney thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I first moved to Perth, you were all about the ardly, wardly, gardly. Like,
sadly, wadly,
yeah, there's
chadly.
a million of them. Pre-social media, you were the queen of an MMS video message.
Yes. Yeah.
There were literally... probably 20 a day that was
minimum.
Sent to me.
Absolutely.
Now you put it on your Instagram story. I watch those Instagram stories.
It's just like an MMS.
It's exactly. I've been watching this shit for over a decade. So I know exactly what it is. Grace. So let's talk about the dialogue because there is so much of it.
The thing that I see when the dialogue is still used here with little Queenie boppers that have just popped up.
They have no idea what it means.
No, and I've got underwear older than half of them, and I think you don't even know what this means or where it came from.
I think one of the ones that they talk about mugs, and they have no idea what a mug is.
Or the mug rug.
Mug rug.
The mug rug. Or the sheets. There's so many. You get on the sheets, I'll get under the sheets. We'll get the mug between the sheets.
The tray doesn't know what's going on.
They don't touch you.
That's a little bit of Chelsea Bun dialogue.
That is the Bun dialogue. Sailing off a ute with the dog in the back.
Oh, I do ache for Chelsea Bunn is the owner of House of Priscilla. Iconic Sydney drag queen who one of the first drag queens I ever seen perform when I started going out in Sydney because I lived just out of Sydney as a teenager on the Central Coast in Newcastle. So when the first night I went to ARC in Sydney, I saw Chelsea Bunn do a carpenter spot. And she came out
and then saw it 300 times.
Yeah, saw it 300 times again.
Year.
But no, she came out in this big flowing dress with a bucket because Karen Carpenter famously had bulimia. And did this spot number. Chelsea is always it's like she's stoned 24/7.
Yeah, absolutely.
She has this very low, high doll.
Yeah.
And she performs like that.
Yeah. No, I think the thing with the tricky dialogue is that every time something came about, you always happen to be there in the exact moment. Do you know what I mean? So you listen to this dialogue and it's like, no, I actually remember when that came about.
When that first created, there's a lot of it. Like I've put some here for the end. I'm just going to quick fire them at you.
Okay.
We'll see where we end up. So I moved to Perth and I lived with you for I think it was about a year.
Oh, more. It was
maybe 18 months or so.
Yeah.
And you were living in a nursing home at the time. So
it used to be. It was
an old nursing home.
Yeah, I think the only way to describe it is it was like the hospital from a country practice. Do you know what I mean? It was what used to be a nursing home.
It was it had
two wards. It had wards.
Yeah, it was
still.
like two houses. The front of the house was this very old, 2-story
kind of
building,
1920s,
and then the back of it was like. Literally
new hospital.
Like hospital rooms. And you had boarders living in the front house, and then myself and yourself were down the back. We had a drag room.
Which was the size of the average house.
Yeah. So it was almost like 2 or 3 houses stacked together. And we had the funnest time living there. Oh, my God.
So much fun. I actually can't take away one bad memory from the house.
No, absolutely not.
Because we were just so trolley. Do you know what I mean? Like every day would be something fun.
And like this was all pre-drag race.
This was tomato sauce and white capris and the Civic, being at Swanbourne Nude Beach every second day.
Yeah,
it was all of that.
There was not a care in the world. No. And because I moved here without a job, I literally moved here and was just doing drag. So
deliveries.
And deliveries. I'd worked for you doing deliveries and, of course, another florist in the city. So that was my first job when I moved to Perth outside of drag was... I was a courier for a florist.
With a tom-tom.
With a tom-tom.
A tom-tom and a Honda Civic.
Pre-Google Maps. But it was the best job ever because
You still to date do the fastest delivery in Perth. I've never found anyone else that
I don't fuck around. But no, because it was a city I didn't know... Delivering flowers, I got to go to every corner of Perth. So I learned the city very fast. It was an incredible...
that was back in the day of like climbing up a vat to get on Little Creatures gigs.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that too. We did some crazy gigs.
Shit for money.
But the nursing home, it's no longer there. It was demolished.
Been and gone, love. Yeah, she's been and gone. So it's an era that will never
be
back.
there again.
No. And I don't know anyone... Certainly not that I've ever met that had the opportunity to live in such a big house. It was just so random. And everyone was always there.
There was people. Danny Alexis was always there.
Oh, God, shit-stained underwear in the suitcase out in the back room. That's right. Yeah, there was always someone there, wasn't there?
Nick was always there.
Yeah, well, she ended up moving in.
Bryce Terry Gledhill.
Oh, putrid. Yeah, they were all there.
There was a lot of... Cinny was there.
Bloody Cinny. Yeah, they all were.
There was a bit of a rotating roster of people who lived there.
Yeah.
And it was often...
And it was just a sea of junk food and drag.
Oh, we ate so much junk food.
We ate so much bad food, girl.
And it was also quite often a second setup for the shop when Valentine's Day would come around.
Nola sitting there in the penny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we did many crazy things in that. We have also travelled a lot together.
A lot.
We gotta go. Yeah, I've travelled more with anyone than I have with you.
Same.
So I've listed all the places I can remember.
God.
So we've been to Broome.
A few times
twice to do drag.
Yeah.
We've been to Darwin. We've been to Melbourne several times together.
Yeah.
We've obviously been to Sydney together.
Yeah.
We've been to Bangkok. We went to Hong Kong. We went to China. We've been to New York. Macau. Miami.
Did you fly from Miami to Florida, though?
No one will understand that. But so we flew from Miami to Florida.
What a moron.
Fucking hell. So, yes, some of those trips have... So all the Asia trip was
all
when
through China, like Guangzhou, all
when
of that.
I first moved to Perth, we did that.
That's right.
And
Bloody that was back in the invention of things like Air Asia and
Yes,
Jetstar.
it was
and
all the first time.
We flew
cheap
all through
everywhere.
until
we missed
the
a
world.
connecting flight on the way home, and then I had to pay a ridiculous
In
amount of money to get
Singapore,
home.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, fucking Tiger Airway.
Rude.
But yeah, and you travel a lot.
A lot
as
still.
well.
Yeah. I'm not traveling on Jetstar and Air Asia anymore, thank God. But
Oh look, I will if it's to Bali.
if it's to Bali, 3 hours or under, sure.
Yeah,
but-
anywhere else, I'll fly Virgin or Qantas.
Yeah,
and
it's a must.
Yeah.
But God, we had some fun on those trips. Like Hong Kong Disneyland getting picked up by Pluto.
So Matthew used to be a lot larger than he is
Oh,
now.
175 kilos
Yeah.
of.
So Matthew had, we'll get to this as well. Matthew had, well, let's just get to it now.
Yeah.
Matthew had weight loss surgery when? Almost a decade ago?
No, it's longer, girl. It's 12 years in
You must have
June.
had it when, because I was still living with
I
you
just
when you
come
had
back
it.
from doing the Germany husband.
Yes. We'll talk about being a bigger city celebrity. So, yeah, you had the gastric band, which
yeah.
they don't really do it anymore.
No, well,
when I
I'm
went
looking
in
now at getting it out
Yeah.
and having the sleeve done because
which is what I just had done.
well, because I maintained the same weight for 10 years.
You lost it fast.
Yeah, and I
So
kept it off. But
fast.
the last 2 years, I've just
The
gradually
turkey balls.
Oh, don't even get me started on those. God, they're popular. You No, I've just gradually put it back on. So I'm going to go.
Yeah, and that's one of the traps with this weight loss surgery. People think it's
It's not a cure, though.
It's not a cure.
No,
because that's one thing I'm learning. Even though I can't physically eat, my head is like, I want food,
yeah,
and I
but
can't.
you can still sip on Coke and drink butter and all that sort of.
Butter I will always drink. Coke I've very barely touched since
Would you
the
drink
surgery.
popcorn chicken out of a blender, though, girl?
No, I can eat that now. Now that the preset, but I buy popcorn chicken, I can't even eat half of it. A small one.
Yeah.
That is like,
No, for
used
me,
to be
it's
a
the
family
same.
feast for
I've
one.
put on
Now
20
it's-
kilos since my lightest, and
Yeah.
I just now I'm like, okay, this 20 kilos. Even though I was so much bigger, I feel so heavy now. So it's like,
right.
I have to go and get it out. And
That's one thing that I'm noticing too, because even though I was really large,
but
and
you
in
were this
charge-
size when I met
Yeah,
you.
I'm probably actually a little bit lighter than when we first met.
Yeah.
I'm at 38 kilo loss
Right.
so far. But
How long is that now? 4 months? 3 months?
no, it's 9-10 weeks.
That's quick, girl.
But not all of that was about 10-15 was pre-surgery, so it's been
Yeah.
about 25-ish since the thing. But yeah, you just said something interesting about feeling heavier, because I never noticed it. Even though I was big, I was always on the go, always active,
Yeah.
go. Now that I've lost 40 kilos, you realize, oh fuck, I was really struggling and didn't even know it.
Didn't even know it.
Did not
I
even
agree.
know it.
Yeah, 100%.
So I certainly don't regret it. But yeah, look, it's the way of the future. Just don't eat. Just remove your stomach and be done with it.
That's it, love. Just sip. Don't eat, just sip.
Just sip. Well, maybe if you acknowledged your customers, they might actually buy something when you walked in the store.
That was back when Harbour Town opened.
Yes.
Oh, God, the queen of the turn.
And yeah, Matthew is very much a queen of the turn, especially in retail.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was also of the era slamming the Louis Vuitton on the
Maror.
counter.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Maror.
yeah, yeah.
We used to carry around
Fuck
a lot
the
of Louis Vuitton
Maror.
back in the day. Let's get back to the social media thing and the MMS messages. How many social medias followers do you have on Instagram now?
65,000 or something, I don't know.
And how the fuck did you do that? Because that is a lot.
Do you know what it is, though? It's because I see so many people, that have these hideous fake followings, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, why would you do it? So I thought, okay, if I'm going to build a following, it has to be authentic.
Yeah.
And because I thought, well, we used to send each other the most trolling messages all day.
The messages that you used to send me, they're exactly what you do on Instagram.
And I thought, why not just keep that up? So that's exactly what I did, but I just did it to an audience rather than sending it to you.
I think Kirby is a major feature in those videos.
Because she's just a mess.
Kirby is one of Matthew's staff members, and she's just in the background of every video eating chicken nuggets.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I produce a lot of content because I'm always out in drag and stuff, but you post I couldn't do it.
But the thing is, and I think for me, it's like having now produced such a big following, I have to also be respectful to them that they're taking
feeding
their
the
time out.
machine.
Yeah, absolutely. But I see I monetized it big time. I owe so much of my business growth to
I was just about to say,
social
how does it
media.
affect your floristry
Very much
business?
So,
Yeah.
very much so, because now people are. It's become like a cult status in the sense of like if you're coming to me, you potentially get to meet me. If you come to one of my stores, you potentially get to see me.
I guess it's like people wanting to have a selfie with me when I'm in drag.
100%.
Same
It's
kind of thing.
exactly the same.
And I always say, no, fuck off.
Or $10, thanks, love. Cash only.
100.
Yeah.
Should be $100. No, but we're definitely living in that world where people want to meet celebrities and social media, people with big social media followings are modern day
new
celebrities. They're the
absolutely.
new
And because
celebrities,
my
absolutely.
following is like 80% Perth based, I can't go anywhere in Perth without someone being like, oh my God.
See, well, I had a huge influx after the Adele stuff, but because it went so globally viral, I've got all these followers from everywhere. So they don't translate necessarily into
being able to monetize it.
being able to monetize it. Yeah, because they don't come to my shows.
But they'll listen to this sort of campery.
Well, that's the plan.
Yeah.
I need to get on
100%.
We're working on it. Like I said, we're only 4 episodes in, but I was waiting for so long. So during one of our trips to
Hong Kong.
Asia,
That was the Hong Kong trip.
it started in Bangkok and crossed over into Hong Kong. But at the time, I had only been living in Perth for maybe a couple of months at most.
Yeah, most.
And we were obsessed with the Celine Dion Live in Las Vegas DVD.
Yeah.
It would play at the nursing home multiple times a day.
As with the nanny.
And Will and Grace.
Yeah.
A lot of DVDs just going. And we were walking around the Bangkok Stack in the swimming pool.
Oh, fuck. Back in those days. See, they really were phones with good cameras and
it
stuff like that.
It was still like Nokias and stuff.
You actually had to turn the phone around.
I didn't even have an iPhone when I moved to Perth.
No,
I still had a Nokia. Fuck. P.S. The air conditioning is not working in the studio and I am
swelled.
sweating.
Me too.
Holy Jesus Christ,
Yeah, I'm
it's
sweltering.
hot. Anyway, not to worry about that. No, leave that in, Lee. You don't need to take that out. He's writing notes. Lee, our producer's scribbling notes. I'm like, fuck it, leave it in. Yeah, so the Bangkok Stack. The Bangkok Stack, for those who don't know what that is, we stayed in this hotel and it had a rooftop swimming pool. And the flooring in the pool was tiles. And I literally said...
She was walking towards the pool and just didn't stop walking.
No, because there wasn't stairs into the pool. It was like a ramp where you kind of just walked into the water and it got deeper. And I must have put 1 or 2 steps into this water and my feet just flew out from under me and splat onto my ass.
Out of a movie. Hilarious. Yeah.
And then you ran into an elephant in a laneway late at night or something.
Oh my God, the elephant in the laneway. Yeah.
I went to bed and she went out exploring Bangkok for trade. Well,
as you do, love.
The queen of trade.
I am, love.
And speaking of trade, you were a bigger city celebrity.
So for those that don't know,
explain what bigger city is.
So when you're really, really fat, it's important to identify that you can be a celebrity in your own right.
A super chub.
Well, I wasn't quite super chub, but I was definitely chub.
Absolutely.
And I never realised how many what's called chasers existed in the world until
I didn't either. You introduced me to that world.
I know, and
Absolutely.
it was just a world that was untapped for me, and I thought, I'm going to take over this world. This is fantastic.
And you made 2 international trips
I did,
for men.
and bloody worth it too, they were.
Bigger City was a website, just like
Grindr
or Manhunt, Gator, all those.
But it was for chubs and chasers.
It was chub chasers, and your name was Bigger City Celebrity.
Yeah, or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Hilarious.
It was a long time ago. And you had 2 international husbands.
I did, yeah.
And
almost
then there was,
at the same time.
Then there was one who came to Perth.
Oh, Barry Darwin, mate.
No.
Beth. Beth, just get on the bloody train.
Now, remind me why we called him Beth.
Because she was from Bethlehem and we couldn't remember. She was from Israel and we couldn't remember what her name was. So she turned into Beth.
The plane's about to land.
Oh, my God.
So this guy was in Australia and Matthew had met him on Bigger City and he came to Perth to spend time with Matthew.
Yes, and
he stayed at the nursing home?
He did, that's right. Yeah. And I remember being at the airport to pick him up and getting a text message being like, the plane's about to land. And this
was before you could use phones on a plane. You couldn't have them turned on at all.
Oh, hilarious.
No in-flight Wi-Fi.
Yeah, why go to the Mecca when you can bring the Mecca to you, girl? Truly.
Come to Perth.
Come to Perth, girl. I'll put you up. I've got the room.
Well, you're no longer a bigger city celeb because you're actually married now.
She is, love. She is married.
How long have you been with Cameron? It's been a while.
Oh, God. 8 years.
Wow.
8 years, love. Yeah, long time now. So, yeah, married life is what it is, love.
Whatever. Let's talk about drag. Because that's how we met.
God.
So your original drag name was Val Uptuous, or Umptuous. The M is accented.
The M is silent, yeah.
And then you became Val Nourished after your surgery.
Yeah.
How did you start drag? Because the Perth scene in drag is so unique. And at the time when I first met you, your makeup was not like any makeup I was seeing in Sydney. Your makeup was like real Priscilla drag.
Yeah.
Black eyebrows, white highlights into the eyebrows, white chalk highlights under the cheeks.
White, black lip liner.
Black lip liner, yeah. So when did you start doing drag?
Well,
you were underage.
Yeah, I was. I was 16. And because I was so tall and so big and so mature, no one questioned it. So I used to go out in drag at 16. And then I did a talent contest when I was 17 and then I won. And then they realised, oh, fuck, she's underage. So how do we go about this? So I had to wait until my 18th birthday before I was allowed to perform.
Wow.
And yeah, but it just started. This was back in the day of like Cherry and Lizzie and all of that. And I was just so inspired by those clown-like characters, you know, that Bianca Del Rio sort of look.
It was very Bianca Del Rio.
Yeah, because
absolutely.
I never saw that. Every time I'd come to Sydney and look at everything that you guys were doing, it was all beige.
Well, we were called the Beige Brigade.
It was.
That's what the production shows used to refer to. It was
bizarre. It was like going through to a different... completely different type
Sydney
of drag
was born out of the transgender Lay Girls showgirls, so it was very much that's where it came from. I mean, there were clown, like Mitzi McIntosh's clown drag, and there were elements of that in Sydney, which were kind of
was more Divine-inspired drag.
Yeah, and they were born really off the back of Priscilla.
Yeah, 100%.
And Striker and Pastel, which they're from Perth. So, you know. But yeah, who taught you to do that makeup? Because,
Cherry was my... she did my face when I was like 16 years old.
Yeah,
and
she's incredible drag queen.
She was incredible. And, you know, and she was the drag daughter as such of Lizzie Cherpsworth.
Yeah.
So then I guess, you know, the line continued with me, and I was like, right, if I'm going to be a look and be fat drag, because I love fat drag.
Oh,
right? There's nothing better.
That's
than
why
fat
I
drag.
never cared about losing weight, because for a long time I was the only fat drag queen, so it set me apart from the crowd so much.
Except fat drag that wear sneakers. I don't like fat drags that wear sneakers.
And smell.
Oh yeah, the smell comes from underneath.
Yeah, pungent,
putrid. So I just wanted to be like that clown-like drag figure.
You were though, and you
and
did
I embraced
it so
being
well.
Fat. That was the thing. I was not ashamed of being fat.
But yeah, it was fat. It was tall. It was giant hair. Bed sheets with belts tied around
100%,
them.
but perfect makeup. It was all about
the
like
makeup
you
was
can.
Always
it was like
incredible.
you can have a bed sheet with a hole cut in it and a belt tied around you, but you got to have a good face, girl.
Yeah, and Dorma wigs. $10 party wigs that were teased. Yeah. Well,
absolutely.
You did lose a wig at Arc Sydney one night in the lighting
fitting.
fixture. This is how tall Matthew is when he's in heels and drag.
Yeah,
He walked into the dressing room at Arc and his wig got caught.
That was Ash Wednesday. It was actually. Do you remember?
Yeah. So Ash Wednesday was. Used to refer to my makeup because I couldn't blend for shit.
No, and she started with black and it just kept creeping.
It was black to the eyebrow many times with a bit of glitter on the lid just to break it up. It was very much the original Feminem look.
With the pink and black wig.
Pink and black mullet. That wig,
if you had $1 for that wig.
That wig has toured the country. She's
the world,
performed
love. Yeah, she's been everywhere.
Stonewall, through to Little Creatures. Oh, the Delta
Socials. She performed at Delta Socials,
in a minute. How long had you been doing drag when I met you for?
I want to say
couple of years?
Yeah, 4 or 5 years. Was I doing lesbian mud dressing when I met you?
Yes.
Yeah, so it would have been 4 or 5 years.
When I first moved here, my first gigs were DJing at the Court, and you and I used to rotate.
Well, how old were we? We would have been, what, 20? Oh, were you here for my 21st, the white party with Kathy?
I had just moved
5
here.
inches cut.
Thank you. That was a great party, by the way.
So you were here for that?
I had just
before
moved
you
here.
shagged Michele.
Yep.
That's right. Bitchy
flawless,
cock, though.
Unbelievable.
Bitchy cock, though. We'll get to that. But she, so I reckon we would have been about, what, 19 when you moved here? I've been doing drag for maybe 3 or 4 years.
I was 21 when I first moved out of home to live in Sydney, and then I moved to Perth a year or two. So I would have been maybe 22,
But you're 2 years older
23.
than me. So that makes sense. Yeah, it would have been just before my 21st.
Yeah, you were 21, I would have been 23,
just before my 21st. Yeah.
We did so much drag
So
together.
that was back in the day, though, because at the time, there was no one else except me that had a website.
That's right.
I was the pioneer of the drag website, and that's why I used to get so many corporate bookings.
You did lots of corporate gigs.
of corporates, and that's what kept us afloat half the time because
we were doing lots.
So
we did lots of
many.
private parties.
Yeah.
We did lots of
Mardi Gras, all of that campery. Like
we went to well, that's why we went to
Broome. Yeah, and we did so many gigs, and that was all for that because I had the website, and I feel like back in those days, no one else had one, so we were flooded with bookings.
I was the same when YouTube first started. I used to upload every spot number.
I remember.
And I would tag it Australian drag queen.
Yep.
And my videos used to get thousands of views
absolutely.
on YouTube. Like tens of thousands of views. And this is like before going viral was a thing.
Yep.
And Like, and they were trash spots. Like me doing Amy Winehouse.
I look back on some of the stuff we did and I think, God almighty. But back in the day, it was good.
What are some drag career highlights of yours?
Finishing.
Well, you still make a rare appearance.
Yeah.
You came out for Andy Michelle's birthday.
I'm actually doing a fundraiser in a couple of weeks for this bitch that's got breast cancer, and they're raising funds for her tits. So I was like, yeah, I'll do a spot for you.
Well, she's having the tits installed, and that is your motto, your life motto.
Why haven't you had the tits installed?
Because they're hairy.
Yeah, the Gary tits. No, I think career highlights for me, because when I think back to fond memories of drag, it all surrounds like us. Do you know what I mean? And like
we're very
fun.
much like a little group collective at the time.
But it doesn't surround individual memories of like specific shows or anything like that.
It was a time.
It's an era for me of like the fond memories of like us getting ready and then being like, well, we're off to do Little Creatures in 5 minutes. That sort of stuff that just,
Sandy Beaches
hysteria.
Is a... Well, she's
League of her own.
A league of her own. Another retired Perth drag queen. Yeah. And Matthew and I had a gig together one night at Little Creatures, and
I was literally putting on stockings.
We were literally about to walk out the door, and Sandy goes, "I'm going to come."
Yeah.
And she got in drag faster than anything I have ever seen.
Ever. Head to toe drag.
In
and she
5
covered
to 10
eyebrows.
minutes.
Yeah.
And Sandy was never a look queen.
No, she was
known for being
brick blush,
a non-look queen.
Yeah, blush applied with the side of a brick and
in fluorescent
Liza
pink.
Yeah.
The liquid black aquacolor eyebrows
and the joggers.
Yeah, she had a very Liza Minnelli look about her when Liza was on a ton of drugs and
a few too many red cordials.
Yeah. Let's talk about Little Creatures, because I've got written here some of the gigs that we have done.
Oh, Little Creatures.
So I did Little Creatures when I came to visit.
That's right.
The first time I ever visited. And you don't perform on a stage at Little Creatures.
No.
You perform on top of the beer vats.
That's the one, love. And it's a ladder which has...
You climb up a ladder.
Which you can't wear shoes on. So
you have to perform up there barefoot.
Absolutely tear your stockings.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And there was this big railed walkway above the beer vats, and we would climb up the ladder. They'd start our music, and we would perform up and down on the scale. The videos are still on YouTube. I need to share the video because and I was wearing the pink mullet wig.
So dangerous. Like I think back to it, and I just like, Christ, what did we do?
I have no idea. I remember going back to Sydney after that trip, and people just going, "What the fuck did you just do in Perth?"
Someone standing there with a huge floodlight from the balcony on top of us, on top of beer vats that were 3 stories high.
They've now got a cabaret room attached to the venue, which I just performed at for Fringe, and it's fabulous. I'm like, where was this a decade ago? But yeah, drag has...
and then DeVille's came after that.
Well... The first time Matthew ever performed at DeVille's, I was backstage throwing up into a sink while Matthew was on stage.
Back in the day, the RAV4.
Yep.
And we wrapped her in plastic. That's right, we wrapped you in plastic and put you in the back of my car.
This was the night of Israel's 30th? Or 40th. No one could guess.
No one knows.
No one could guess his real age. But yeah, we'd been on a river cruise, and Matthew had to go do a gig afterwards. And
that's right.
I was literally throwing
paralytic.
And I remember,
drunk. So when you were on the stage at DeVille's, you had to do about 3 steps down to get into the
dressing
room
closet.
A tiny,
the dressing room is a broom closet with a sink in it.
Yes.
And
I'm mid-show, and I walk down the steps to change, and she's head in the sink, and the sink is full of potent vomit.
Clogged with
and I just
mini
remember
spring
walking
rolls.
out being like, ugh.
I think Sandy was there as well.
She was on the stage when I came off, and I was like, oh, fuck.
And somehow you got invited back, and we performed there for the better part of a decade.
Yeah.
We would go in once a month. So, it got more regular eventually. But we would go in and we would do these little shows, these 10, 15, 20-minute shows that we would call Moldies for Goldies.
Moldies for Goldies, love.
Because what that means is, Moldies for Goldies is we would do numbers that we have done more times than we could count and just recycle them. The same choreography to different songs.
Yep. And what colour's a $50 bill, love?
Yep.
Gold.
And they just kept inviting us back.
Yeah.
And we had the gayest time ever at that place.
We were camp, though, because it was one of those straight venues that you could just be gay.
You could do drag and they wouldn't care because they were so
just living
excited
for
by
it. Yeah.
And then right next door to DeVille's was another venue we frequented called the Delta Socials, which was a swingers club.
Chicks driving a Stato.
It was a swingers club slash
it was a swingers club that used to have
premises.
Sex on premises that used to have cross-dressers,
transvestites, whatever went.
And their admirers.
And we used to pop in there after our shows at DeVille's.
Michelle with the big tits.
And there, so let me set the picture because it is.
It's a picture.
I've been to many sex on premises, but this is like nothing else like
She's
it.
had many sex on premises, love.
Kensington, 565.
2 hands coming through glory holes.
Oh, babes. You know I was the queen of the glory hole at Kensington. Just ask Lance.
Just off to Ken's.
And so you would walk in the front door and you'd walk into this giant room and there was a swimming pool.
Massive swimming pool. And a spa.
And a spa. And then beside the swimming pool, there was a bar where they would...
And a pool table.
They would ring the bell and give out free shots.
Yep. To the women or the transsexuals.
That's correct. And then up on a mezzanine, there was a pool table where someone could be playing pool... And
at one end,
and on the other side,
on the other
someone's
end.
leant over being fucked doggy style.
Yeah.
It was just and then they had a little back room where there was a swing. There's pictures of me in the swing in full
dressed
drag.
as a cowgirl, mounting that woman.
Yep. There are, if you can find our old MySpace page, they would all be on MySpace. They're locked in a vault on MySpace. But that's the thing. You would never be able to take a phone into a venue like that now. No. Oh, back in the day, we didn't give a fuck.
Well, it was camp. You know, it wasn't, you didn't even think about it.
So I went there with you many times. Yep. I think the orange might have been birthed there in a swimming suit.
You screaming, Matthew!
Yes,
it's time to go.
Yeah, I would.
We're all in there trying to be girly, and
because we lived together and we knew each other so well, we would flip flop between our real names and our drag names, and I would quite often by accident call him Matthew when he was in drag in the middle of the
standing there trying to be girly.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, hello. And she's all Matthew, we have to go.
And yeah, I used to go there fair with you.
McDonald's turn.
Oh, so
me
many,
through the window.
So many of them.
Vile.
So many of them. We were the queens of drive-through.
Oh, absolutely.
Any drive-through in Perth, they knew us by name and number.
100%.
They knew our order.
Especially KFC Maylands. They had us in the book club. Or McDonald's Maylands it was, where they had the book where if you didn't get something, you'd call them.
Oh, my God. And, of course, this was all pre-Uber Eats.
Oh, long before.
There are many MMS videos of you in the car with drive-through.
Absolutely.
1 meal, hardly got two
lives.
lives. There is a video, I'll post this to our social media, which I spliced together probably 30, 40, 50 of these videos into a 5-minute video.
Woman. I am Sophie Monk.
I am Sophie Monk. We were obsessed with Sophie Monk back in the day.
Yeah.
This is pre The Bachelorette and all that crap.
Yeah, this was...
But this Delta Socials, I also went there many times with Mariah.
God, Mariah. And, that's a league of its own.
Who's the other queen? Josh. What was his drag name?
Oh, can't remember. Oh, she was putrid.
Yeah, and she had that house party that we went to, and this is when we had Swardly smart cars. We had matching smart cars.
That's right.
So there used to be a company where you could lease smart cars in Perth,
and they put advertising.
They put advertising on them. Mine never had advertising on it though.
Neither did mine, ever.
And yeah, we had smart cars for quite a while together.
Yeah, ages.
Hilarious. I drove that smart car to Geraldton for sex.
I'll never forget that. Where are you, girl? Geraldton getting head.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I ran into him only a couple of weeks ago, actually. Saw him at Connections. Hadn't seen him for years and years and years. And just like the old days, he's still requesting Britney Spears. That's how you know how old a gay person is. They're requesting Britney Spears in a gay bar.
Yeah.
Anyone under 30 is not requesting Britney Spears
no.
at a gay bar. I am sweating like a pedophile.
Chick. Yeah. I'm sweating, love.
Well, let's talk about politically correctness. We used to say the word tranny referring to each other in like a very sisterly way.
The thing is, I hear about this political correctness.
Yeah, right? And you've never been politically correct.
Well, I struggle with it because, for instance, to me, when I was, you have to, obviously with political correctness, you have to adjust as times.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
You have to adapt.
Yep.
But to me, a term like tranny was a term of love.
It was a term of endearment.
It's a term of love. It was never derogatory.
Oh, yeah, I can't pinpoint a time where it crossed over into the derogatory.
I just can't imagine a time where I've said it in a derogatory way.
Absolutely, I never have. And that's the thing, some of the first drag queens that I ever worked with or ever gave me work opportunities were trans showgirls, like Penny Clifford.
But like when I first started drag, when I was 16 years old, and I'd arrive at Cherry's house in Wembley, she'd be like, oh, hey, tranny.
Yeah.
It was like a term of love.
Let's talk about Cherry for a second, because there's a lot of Perth kids who wouldn't know who Cherry is. So when I moved to Perth, Cherry was working for Gina Biddy.
Oh, Gina, you can't.
Speaking of trans people, Gina was a transsexual who owned a costume shop.
Yep.
And Cherry used to work there sewing, making costumes for her. And Cherry would also freelance and make costumes for us as well. But she was also a phenomenal drag performer in her own right.
She used to just do these. I will never
always
forget.
In a camel chorus heel.
Absolutely. Never see every Club West. She'd always be in a chorus. Club West, yeah.
That's a whole nother thing.
That's a whole nother show, love.
Yeah.
But she did this spot one time at New Year's Eve. She did Fighter by Christina Aguilera, and she sat on this massive wind podium with this massive dress on, and it was just like one of those spots where you watch and you're like, I've never seen anything like this. Well, incredible.
She's gone on to do amazing things. She now lives in Melbourne, and so's for the Department of Education.
Yeah, she's
for all the big school spectacular shows and the Melbourne Theatre Company.
She's an incredible designer, incredible seamstress.
I wish she still lived in Perth.
Yeah.
Because at the moment...
She also still probably looks 12.
She's the world's oldest twink.
She really is.
Like she looks like Courtney Act. Courtney Act is almost 40 and still looks like she's 21. 100%. Cherry is exactly the same. Yeah, there's no one in Perth sewing at the moment. No. I mean, Scarlett is, but she's about to leave. Anne-Marie no longer sews. Storm's out of business. Like
it's a shame because it's like that used to be so much of the theatre behind it is
the costume,
but also the process of going and having it made and the fittings. That's what used to make it really, really fun.
I need to get Anne-Marie in here for an episode because the stories she could tell.
The stories we could tell.
Well, that's it.
What time are you all right to come over for a fitting, love? Oh, midnight,
2 in the morning.
1 in the morning?
Yeah, just...
okay, doll.
She has had the most interesting career in life, like best friends with Cindy Pastel, like was back at Connections in the 70s, has sewn for Kylie Minogue, like she's done it all. And she
is in a cheesecloth caftan.
All in a cheesecloth caftan with tits down to her knees. Yep. She's the most eccentric woman, but
she is. Fuck that bitch can sew. I will never forget the first time I ever had her make me something and she told me it was $500. And we're talking 10 years ago. Longer. And I was like, $500 for a costume? Like, that's so expensive. Yeah. She didn't even measure me.
No,
she looked at me and then produced a garment.
What she used to do with me a lot of the time is she would pin muslin against my body, just pin it around me kind of in a big sheet and then start pinning darts into it and then cut the pattern pieces as the fabric was wrapped around my body. I've never seen anything like it.
Incredible.
Well, I mean, we used to... well, you've got one foot on the pedal, one hand on the cigarette. We did make quite a few costumes ourselves.
You get on the pedals, I'll get on the...
and they were not...
horrific.
They were not fabulous. Horrific. One of them had a square neckline, one had a round neckline, and one was a diamond.
Yes!
So the three... This was me, Val, and Sandy. The three of us would go on stage in these costumes that were...
There was DeVille's costumes.
There were DeVille's costumes. Yeah, I can whip up a caftan if I absolutely have to.
The original court caftans you whipped up?
I did.
Yeah.
I've still got a couple of them.
Yeah.
Storm made quite a few of those court caftans as well. Cherry made a set. Remember those brown ones we bought for the Young Divas?
Nothing got worn more than those.
No, absolutely.
They were the most flattering thing ever.
And same with wigs. We used to gussy up a wig.
Absolutely.
With floral spray.
Yeah, that's right. Floral
adhesive
glue. Yeah.
Spray. And we would just make it work.
Yeah, but I think I look at these queens that are coming in now that are kind of RuPaulized, you know, and that's the standard that's now been set.
The level has just become so
intense,
and so
competitive as
Instagram driven perfection.
100%.
And
and you and I have both seen that a lot of these girls that look perfect on Instagram, they don't look perfect in real life, love.
Sweetheart.
Bloody hell.
And not many of them can perform either, just saying.
Love.
But the thing is, they don't need to. They're now making money through endorsement deals and makeup. Like Miss Fame and Violet, they're working as Wilhelmina models, doing insane things.
Yeah.
And I was saying the other day, drag has never been as popular as it is right now. And in Perth, I have never seen anything like it. I've been living here for 12 years now, and I am personally always booked months ahead. But I also book a lot of other queens and send them out for gigs under my Proud Entertainment Group business. And I'm having trouble booking queens as well because everyone is just so booked. It's like, I mean, look, we know that drag has always been popular because of Priscilla and we were doing corporate events and stuff back, 10, 15 years ago. But it is at an unprecedented level of popularity.
I was having this chat with Lizzie Churchworth recently, actually.
Well, she would have seen it all.
She has. And we were talking about it because now I feel like if I was still doing drag, right, and I was still working at Connections in the Court and all of that, I wouldn't feel like the unicorn I used to feel like 15 years ago.
Yes.
Because it's so common and so normal now. Whereas if you used to walk down James Street in drag 15 years ago, were you going to have a bottle thrown at you? You would literally stop traffic. Whereas now it's just it's just a drag queen.
You doing a photo shoot as Paris Hilton in 40-degree heat?
On top of a bar.
Not looking anything like Paris Hilton?
With a chihuahua.
This is when you were 175 kilos?
Yes. Oh, God.
The random things. The
craziest
shit.
You
doing a bucks party somewhere in Northbridge and the groom had a ball and chain on his leg and they had him blindfolded and you came in and did Miley Cyrus.
And it was bikers.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Fuck. We performed at the Voodoo Lounge.
Yeah. Oh, with no power.
Yes, that's right. The power went out. It was a fetish party.
Yeah, it was a
we
fetish
have done
party.
some bizarre things.
Yeah.
But that's what I love about drag. The variety and the randomness of it can sometimes be the most amazing things. Like I'm doing things now in drag that I never thought I would do. Like being cast in We Will Rock You the musical was like an absolute game changer. And then obviously fringe festivals, and I've toured the country DJing and with my cabaret shows. Like those are things that as a teenager I wanted to do, but I thought I was going to be a pop star. Now I'm doing the exact same thing, but I'm doing it as a drag performer.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think social media has just made that so accessible as well.
It's made a lot of it possible.
Yeah.
Like I have a website and I'm signed with an agent here in Perth who books a lot of my corporate entertainment. But 90% of the work I do with my bingo nights or private parties or weddings, it all comes through social media.
Yeah.
Very, very little of it comes through an agent or my website. It is so driven by people who already follow me or someone has recommended me because I did a party for someone, so they recommended me to someone else. And yeah, the social media, the amount of money I have made because I have a social media presence is insane. And like you said, it's the same with your florist.
It's exactly the same with me.
Let's talk about your floristry because you're an award-winning florist. The floristry work you have done, I have never seen anything like it.
Well, I've been doing it a long time.
You grew up in a
it.
florist family.
That's right,
your grandmother and your mother were both florists, so you grew up in the business.
It's in the blood, love.
And that's it. I've seen newspaper articles from you when you were a teenager in the newspaper, then already doing award-winning.
Yeah, it started young, and I didn't do it for the awards or for the fame. I just did it because back in those days, doing a competition meant that you got to create something aside from your normal bunch of flowers.
Yes, and like I've been with you to the Royal Show here in Perth and the Melbourne Flower Show, seeing you in action. You go to the Chelsea Flower Show. When we were in New York, you made us go to the Flower District just to look.
Yeah, because I just wanted to have a look.
How do you design a floral piece? Like, do you come up with a concept or do you just pick up flowers and let it come organically?
I think it's the same as when you put on a drag face.
I do a stamp and call it a day.
But you just sit down and you can do a stamp. Do you know what I mean? Like you know what you're capable of, and then every now and then you go, oh, you know what, I'm going to take it to the next level and I'm going to create something different. Yeah. And it's similar to us, but it's quite a very on-demand creative industry. Like someone will call or come in and they'll want something really specific, and it's up to us as the florist to go, okay, what are we doing right now?
What is a day-to-day at Matthew Landis Florist? Because I know you do a lot of like.
So we do all the flowers for all the Crown hotels.
That's it. You do all of the Crown stuff.
Yeah.
Even back in the day, you were doing like big arrangements to go in the foyers of office buildings and stuff.
So we still do all of that. It's just now now for me, I look at the business and it's just a well-oiled machine. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone has their purpose, and my purpose is actually to kind of still be the name or the brand and the person.
The face of.
So I go wherever I need to go. So like, for instance, today I need to go and meet with clients, things like that, because they want to see me. Yeah. So it's really important. So I'm probably not as hands-on in terms of on the bench as I used to be.
I wish I could be like that with drag.
Yeah.
But because
it's you.
It's me.
It's you. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and that's the thing. I spend all day just at home replying to emails. Like, I've got a couple of gigs coming up today. I've been emailing the venue booker, signing contracts with Oztix, making sure my graphic designer has the artwork designed, making sure all the cast are booked and got the dates in their diary. Like,
it's the same for me. Like, we've got a wedding on tomorrow.
Yeah.
I haven't touched one flower for this wedding. Not one flower. But I will go and I will deliver the bride's flowers tomorrow morning.
Just
I'll
to
gag
show
with
face.
her. Do you know what I mean? Like, all of that. And
put on a show.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. Because that's what they want. They want that whole experience.
Getting cut out of a clown suit at Party City. Is that what it's called, Party City?
Party Town.
Party Town. So I'm just throwing in these nuggets just to curveball Matthew.
Oh,
so there used to. It's not still there.
It's still there.
It's still there. There's
Claremont,
a party shop called Party Town, and Matthew used to know one of the girls who worked there.
And I was like, I need a clown suit.
And she wanted to try on a clown suit, and this is when she was 175 kilos.
So I put on this clown suit, and as I put it on, my arms basically went straight out, and I stood there like a scarecrow, and I couldn't move, and I was like, someone needs to cut me out of this.
And do you still run you were doing like a Floral Academy. You were having people come in and do classes. Do you still do that as well?
Yeah, so
because that to me is a genius business model.
Well, we're still the largest here in Perth, and I've also got the academy in Adelaide, of course. So now
How often do you go to Adelaide?
Well, I've got a teacher that works in Adelaide as well, but I go over myself every 2 months. For
because I'm going over in a couple of weeks. next week for Adelaide Fringe just to do some guest spots and stuff. And it's only the second time I've ever been to Adelaide. So
Adelaide.
I'm really looking forward to spending time there because last time I was there, I was literally in and out for a show. I'm like there for 3 days.
Yeah,
and I can't
it's just
wait.
like the younger sister of all the other cities in Australia, and it's a really cute city, and it's just so cultural. You know, like
I can't
the
wait.
people live for Fringe Festival and the Cabaret Festival and stuff like that. So Adelaide was one of the best business decisions that I ever made, putting the school there because it was just great to penetrate that market.
Well, you are business.
She is, love.
You are.
She is. She's made every mistake and every right decision.
Well, that's the thing. I've seen you fail and then come back 100 times bigger.
Yeah.
And like,
because you've got to learn from it.
Absolutely. And I certainly have learned from you. Like when I first started Proud Entertainment Group and the Proud Awards, I came to you and said,
I remember.
I want to do this event. Help me draft up a sponsorship proposal. And so, and even your
see
brother.
An accountant, girl.
Yeah, and see an accountant.
It's one of those things. It's like,
trust me, I'm all over that now. The funny thing is, let's tell you a story. Let's tell you a story. I didn't do a tax return for over 10 years. And Matthew was one of the only people who was privy to this information. And I have since fixed it, paid off my tax debt, and I am now insanely
do you know what the thing is though? And
you learn from it.
Yeah, but it just went to show, love. You were so scared of getting a massive tax bill, and then didn't.
No,
and
I know.
I was like,
I got a tax
stressing
bill
for nothing.
But yeah, the tax bill was a fraction of what I was expecting. So anyway, it's done and dusted, and I now have an accountant and a bookkeeper.
It's so important.
I've got it all covered. But
the business success for me nowadays has all come about from trial and error, and it's about just learning from the mistakes and just being like, okay, that didn't work. But also now I've had to learn to adapt to, like social media life.
Well, I think you have with the social media, the Floral Academy, you're doing the corporate work.
And we're opening another
weddings.
store on Tuesday in Claremont.
Is there a grand opening?
Oh, there is, but I just need to...
Do I need to come do Adele again?
Absolutely.
I have done...
Yeah,
Matthew threw this party at
right.
His academy and I came in and did Adele.
Yeah, that right. That was camp, actually.
The fucking grazing table at that party.
Yeah, she does.
The
you
catering.
will never leave my house hungry, love.
No,
ever.
never. And that's where I met Marty.
That's
and
right.
I've done events for her as well.
Yes.
See, Perth, one thing I love about Perth is it's small.
Yeah.
And that can be a good thing and a bad thing. But once you meet a couple of people in Perth...
You can be very well connected.
You can be very well
quickly.
connected very fast.
Yes.
And it's certainly knowing the right people. Or it's not even knowing the right people. It's just knowing how to interact with them. Because you can meet the right people and not know how to take that opportunity. And that's one thing I think you're very good at too. You
seeks
opportunity and you know how to not hustle people, but see the opportunity and build a relationship with them. And I definitely
maintain the relationship.
Absolutely.
That's the most important thing.
Matthew and I do not sing happy birthday to each other. We sing, it's the Muppets, the Permits, the Veet, it's the Us, it's Trade. It's the Muppets, the Permits, the Veet, it's the Veet, it's the Muppets, the Us, it's Trade. It's the Muppets, the Permits, the Veet.
If I had $1 for every bottle of Veet that you and I went through.
Veet for men, though. We were very particular about the Veet for men.
Do you know, though, you put me onto Veet.
Veet for
back
men
when I met you, I was still having it. Oh, Nair.
That's it.
That's right.
And it's horrible.
It is.
Normally towards the end of the podcast, I do like questions or that I've put out to the Facebook. I didn't do that today. I just wrote down a bunch of dot points that we're going to talk about.
Oh, God, this makes me nervous.
We're going to try. Okay, so I've just written here at the top of it, hysterical moments. Hysterical moment number 1 is Roma parked on a roundabout.
So my late grandmother was iconic.
This was Christmas Day.
Yeah.
I had just moved to Perth. It was the first Christmas I had in Perth. Tell everyone
the
Roma
Magna.
had a Magna.
So this woman, my grandmother, she was so entitled, and she
it runs in the family.
It really
it's
does.
a family trait for sure.
That's a burden. But she couldn't find a parking spot at the Christmas get together down at Port Walter.
The river.
Yeah, and so she just parked on the roundabout, on the top of the roundabout.
And I remember I parked miles away, and I'm walking down to this, and I see
the Magna.
This Magna. I just see it sitting on top of a roundabout, and I said to Matthew, I was like, "Is that Roma's car?" Yeah, I was like, "Is that what I think it is?"
She couldn't find a parking spot, love.
Oh my God! Levitating towards Celine Dion.
So this was in the middle of the Las Vegas hysteria.
She came into it to Australia, and she played.
What's it called now?
HBF Stadium, where Elton John just played there.
Yes,
they do all the big shows there. It's the outdoor stadium.
So we sat there, and we had really good seats, actually.
We were sitting on the side, good view of the stage, whatever.
Gagging. Like, okay, we'll leave.
And after the concert, we're outside, walking back to the car.
And then, so Celine's limo comes out of the gate, and I'm not joking, it was probably about 50 metres away.
Yeah.
And Dean was by my side, and then I'm not joking, like just moved. There was no leg movement, nothing.
Just
like
floated.
She flew, like it was towards this thing. I was like, God, literally levitated towards Celine Dion. Push.
Veet burns in Miami. Speaking of Veet, so Matthew and I went to America.
I'm married. I haven't veted my ass for years.
Well, I'm having laser again.
Yeah.
I just had a laser.
I've had laser, yeah.
So we were in New York. We went to America.
Then we flew from Miami to Florida. Yeah.
So no, we went to America to go on a drag race cruise, which Matthew never got on.
No.
So we went. There was three of us.
To die.
Yes,
Rude.
it was Matthew, myself, and our friend Ash. And we went to New York first.
Yeah.
And
saw Bob the drag queen.
We
before
saw
she
Bob
was
the drag
famous.
queen, and we were like, "Who the fuck was this queen?" She was on stage
gay.
for an hour, just working the room.
She was the black version of Deluxe. She really was.
She was incredible. And we were there for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. The most amazing Black
we shopped
Friday
till
sales.
we dropped,
yeah.
And then we went down to Miami because that's where we were meant to get on the Alan
cruise.
Chuck drag race cruise. And we thought, we're going to get on this cruise. We need to be hairless head to toe. We're going to be doing drag. So we veeted our backs, and somehow, I don't know if we got a bad batch of veet.
Or it must have been heat affected or something.
Something from the travel.
Yeah.
Anyway, it burnt our skin.
Both of us. We were both burnt to a crisp.
And anyway, the day before the cruise, Matthew found out his grandmother was sick, had to fly home.
Yep.
So Ash and I did the cruise without him. And
So I went home back to Perth.
With a Veet burn, and I went on a cruise.
Yeah.
Sharting in New York in the hotel room.
So Dean and I stayed in this hotel room in New York at the Holiday Inn, and it was twin beds, and I kid you not, it was tiny, like 10 square meter room with 2 single beds, and she had the shits real bad, and I'm talking real bad. And
but there's a bit of a backstory because in amongst all these MMSs, we used to send a lot of audio recordings, which were
we still do.
Farts. We still do.
We do.
Lie in bed at 1 a.m. on Facebook Messenger recording farts. Anyway, we're in this tiny little hotel room. I come out of the bathroom thinking I'm going to be hilarious and fart, and I literally spread my ass cheeks and go to lay a fart. And as the fart presents itself, I jump back up and clench my cheeks, run into the bathroom, and what falls out of my ass crack?
A nugget.
A nugget.
Yeah.
She
shit herself.
That's not the first time I've lost a pair of underpants to shitting myself either.
Well, Carrie Carroll washed the last pair you lost to it.
I will tell you the story. I had food poisoning one Christmas. It was the day my grandfather passed away very close to Christmas.
Yep.
So we had his funeral days before Christmas, and I got food poisoning from the food at the wake.
As you would on the Central Coast.
Well, yeah. Anyway, I was projectile vomiting and shitting at the same time. My underwear was working as a strainer.
And Carrie Carroll is a league of her own.
Gold class.
What's gold class?
My mother, if she ever comes to Perth, well, she is coming soon. We need to go get her in for
absolutely.
Jesus Christ. She wouldn't know what to do though. Modern technology.
She's the best.
Yeah. So anyway, yes, I did shart myself in New York City. That was fabulous. The movie Catching on Fire when we went to see Mamma Mia. Subiaco. We were in the cinema and they're playing the previews and the movie starts and then all of a sudden it looks like the film is melting.
Yeah.
So, do they still even use film? I mean, that wasn't that long ago.
Oh, it was Mamma Mia.
So, at least a decade ago, the first one.
Yeah.
And it was
There's also
melting.
a series of photos from that day.
Of us sitting in there.
Yeah. And the one that you took of me asleep.
Yes. Oh, no, that was, I think that was when we went to see Les Mis on Christmas Day and walked out.
Yeah, or The Devil Wears Prada when we saw that 15 times.
Could have been many of those.
I am famous for falling asleep at any moment.
Oh, Sandy and her 5-minute face. We already talked about that.
Oh, yeah.
The blue glitter lip in Broom. And one earring.
When I forgot to bring
there's a big story here. So the first time we went to Broom,
the blue glitter
they
lip.
wanted Matthew to get off the plane in drag. They're like, we're going to have the local news camera there. It'll be a great idea. So it was myself, Matthew, and Sheila James.
Yes.
Oh, no, was it Cherry?
It was Sandy.
No, Sandy came the second time. The first time I think we went, it was with Sheila.
Oh, I can't even remember, love.
We're on the plane and Matthew starts doing his makeup while we're flying.
It was Sheila. It was Sheila. Yeah.
Matthew realises his wig is packed in the luggage and he's done a full drag face, got the dress and everything. about to get off the plane and has no wig.
So I'm wearing a scarf.
He ties a scarf around his hair, wearing a yellow piece of fabric that looks like Big Bird.
Yes.
And struts off the plane in this. No, it was cherry the first time we went. Because I remember.
Yes.
It was
yes,
cherry.
It was. Yes,
it was cherry. Oh, God. Anyway.
And then get into this convertible Jaguar.
Yeah, and then
they
they drove us around Broome doing all these ridiculous things. Oh, say all around
with your
Broome.
blue glitter lip.
And because Matthew was getting off the plane in drag, I was like, well, I've got to do something as well. So I put some MAC lip gloss on my lips and then topped it with blue holographic glitter, hung one giant earring off my ear, and walked off the plane looking like Guy Pearce in the 90s.
Literally. Yeah.
And we were the
and
toast
that was
of the
first
town.
time Broome had seen anything
they
like
do,
that.
They do Mardi Gras up there now. There's a bunch of queens up there from Darwin who go every year and do this massive Mardi Gras.
Oh, Pete.
I DJ'd for New Year's up there last year in drag. A couple of thousand people.
Yeah.
Insane.
Well, that's the whole township, love.
That is the whole township. Then there is the infamous ball sweat corset.
Which you sprung on me. We were somewhere on like Murray Street or something
yes,
like that.
with Barbie. We're doing a gig in a restaurant.
That's right.
And we're backstage, well, not backstage, in a disabled toilet.
Yeah, backstage.
And Matthew's like,
what is that smell?
What is that smell?
Balls.
It smells like ball sweat. It was a black PVC corset that I had purchased from House of Priscilla that I had been wearing for
5 years before.
Probably 5 years at the time, and it had never been washed. You can't wash.
Porsche Turbo has the best quote for that. Drag shouldn't be washed. It should be burned.
And it's very true. I do wash it these days because it's expensive.
Yeah.
But back in the day...
Oh, that smell, girl.
Yeah, sweat.
Drag corsets, like drag is a league of its own. And if you haven't got a bottle of Febreze on you at all times...
Or cheap Victoria's Secret body spray.
The perfume.
The drag perfume. It's a Lamington. Would you like to explain that one?
So when Dean first moved to Perth, my florist was right down the road from Taylor Road IGA, and we used to walk down there and get like roast beef rolls and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, because your shop was literally
Walking
a block away.
distance. Yeah.
And the house was only a couple of further blocks. It was all
and
very
then,
local.
So we're walking through the checkout one day, and the young girl behind the checkout's looking in this bag.
It was in a bag, yeah.
She's looking in this bag and just staring at this thing, and Dean's like, it's a Lamington. Like, the things like this, though, it's not funny to anyone else because it's
just
fucking hilarious.
But it just goes
us.
back to what you were saying before. You don't have a drag career, like you have these like moments. And these are definitely moments of my life where I think, oh my God, those first few years of living in Perth were just
hilarious.
mental. Can we talk about Pia?
Aussie bumps, this is Pia speaking. Hello.
So, when I was living in Sydney, when Matthew and I first became friends with Matthew, I worked for Aussie Bum.
Yeah.
I was head of their customer service team. So they had a warehouse, office space, and
the bitchy cock that you sailed into in the bathroom.
The models there, they used to do all the photo shoots there, everything. And I used to be reply to all their customer service emails, answer the phones, and because we had a lot of international customers who would be buying into the Aussie brand, we had a girl who worked there who could speak multiple languages and translate for us.
And she
was German. She had this gorgeous little like bowl cut. I have a wig that resembles that, which I haven't worn for a long time. I might have to dust it out. The sideways hair. We just got sidetracked. I need to do like a montage of all my really bad wigs because I never throw them out.
Oh, we both do, love.
Yeah. And Pia, Matthew used to call... He'd call Aussie Bum 100 times a day just to chat to me while I was replying to emails.
Yeah.
There's no surprise I got fired from this job.
This was back in the day when you actually could... You would actually just call someone to talk.
Not anymore. And yeah, Matthew used to...
Aussie Bum.
Would either heckle her or hang up on her.
Oh, I used to love calling and hanging up on her.
Because Matthew...
The scramble hang up is my famous...
because Matthew used to have this saying, I'm sorry, but you do not know who my husband is.
I'm sorry, but you do not know
and
who
he
my
used to say
husband
this to Pia, and in her German accent across the office would scream out, Dean, your husband is on the phone.
Pia. The people that we used to
I don't know whatever happened to her. She
bless her heart.
Never kept in contact with her.
The hang-ups.
We need to talk about 565 feet.
The sausage roll that I left on top of the car.
I've written sausage roll right there as well.
Yeah.
So 565 used to be a sex on premises it's on Beaufort Street. It's now a gym, which is ironic because all gay men have sex at the gym. So
45 minutes in the shower, 15 minutes on the treadmill.
There. When I first moved to Perth, I don't know if I was living here the first time I went or if I was just visiting.
I think it was when you lived here and we went there.
I'd been to a couple of saunas in Sydney, but this sauna was like, it was huge.
Massive.
It had this giant, when you walked in, it was just this giant room with a television.
Yeah.
Like a lounge.
Massive.
And then obviously it had a spa and a sauna and all that sort of stuff. And I don't remember how the 565 feet happened.
Oh, I do.
Please, because I remember it was
do.
me running from something.
No,
or
I do.
I can't
So
remember.
we were walking through like the maze of like rooms that you can obviously go in and close the door. And there was this guy on all fours with his ass up in the air on the bed. And Dean and I both looked at it as we walked past. And then as Dean sailed into the room, I thought, oh, cop her. I didn't know she was a top. And then, no, there was no top, love. She slapped this bloke on the ass so hard and like sailed out of there. Ran.
The 565 feet, what we refer to, imagine when Fred Flintstone feet
Your
running.
feet ran so fast, but fuck, we used to do
I
something.
hope my parents don't listen to this podcast. There's a lot of tea in here that I mean, it's not like they don't know it, but they don't really need to listen to it in this much
Some
detail.
of the shit that we used to get up to. And then walking back out of the sauna that day and the sausage roll that I'd forgotten about was still on the roof of the car.
we had stopped and gotten food on the way to the sauna, left it on the roof of the car, and it was still there when we came back.
And I ate it.
I've got a feeling that might have been the night of Kathy's housewarming party.
It's exactly what it was because we went straight out to Inglewood to
just down the road actually.
To Kathy,
her house.
To her fingernails in her ashtray. That's a league of its own.
Yeah. We're talking about Catherine Wolfgram, everybody. She lived in Perth very briefly. She wrote for Out in Perth. And
horrific.
She's a very interesting person. I ran into her last time I was in Sydney. Hadn't seen her for a long, long time. But she's now a trans activist. She's doing a lot of activism
I did
work.
see that actually. She's trying to do good things, which is very
good
impressive.
for her. I've run out of things.
So should we go through a list of the actual tricky dialogue then?
Should we just... Okay, let's start at the letter A. Ardley.
Yep, Ardley.
B is Bulf. But it didn't start as Bulf. It originally started as Ulf. It was O.
But the thing is that it's the Bulf. It's like
Bulf. And then there's C. What?
Don't know.
Dunno.
Oh my God, there was just so much trolley dialogue.
No. E.
I wrote an alphabet of it at some point.
G is Gardley.
A Gardley.
H is Hardley. A Gamp lamp. That's the Gamp
No,
lamp.
there was so much. I'm going to have to dig it out. We're going to have to make a montage video for you to put up on your socials because that was hilarious.
Trolley's a good one.
Trolley. Yeah,
Mug.
The mugs. Barry Dara mug. Black China mug.
Oh my God.
Black China mug was my favourite love. I went back twice for that.
So Matthew surprised me. This is we're in China.
At the Skinny Club.
At the Skinny All right. We stayed in this hotel and the translation of their gym was
the
Skinny Club. And we were in hotel rooms like next door to each other and we checked in, done our thing and just...
I was like, I'm going to have a sleep, girl.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a sleep.
Anyway,
I'm a bit tired.
We agreed to meet up and I come out of my hotel room at the exact same time Matthew does and he has this 7-foot black Kenyan-looking guy that... he has just slept with in China. Where you find a man like that in central China, I've got no
city,
idea.
Baby.
Biggest city, there we go. See,
that's
it
the
all
one,
goes back
love.
to the biggest city.
It all came back to that.
Ardley.
So
we haven't talked about Big Red.
Big Red, the voice. Yeah,
she appears in the I Am a Woman video. Matthew's mother, Linda Landers, is an icon in her own right.
Bloody hell. She's
Fag
basically
hag to many.
She's Debbie from Queer as Folk, but the Perth version, basically.
She's a little, and also a little bit Grace Adler's mother.
100%. 100%.
But yes, Debbie from Queer as Folk is a very good...
Yeah, Debbie Reynolds or Debbie from Queer as Folk.
She drove the convertible that year we did the Pride Parade together.
Me getting the speeding fine in the convertible with the beige lipstick and the headscarf.
Matthew used to drive around in cars with wigs on and sunglasses.
We call it car drag.
Yeah.
So you'd put on a wig, sunglasses, a scarf and lipstick, even if you had a full beard.
Gee, that lamb smells nice. We should probably talk about food because we ate our way through.
A lot of it, love. I'm actually probably pretty responsible for how big you got, though. Like, because it did eat
start.
a lot.
I mean,
love.
although in Sydney I did have a back seat full of McDonald's wrappers. The Fiesta.
Opening the Fiesta and the bloody...
I was a really shitty eater as a kid. And
hamburger. Never cheeseburger.
Never cheeseburgers. No, I grew up just being a really fussy eater, which led me to a lot of junk food. And then obviously being surrounded by people like you who were the same.
Exactly.
We just encourage each other all the time.
And then
Carver's Buffet at Crown. We used to be known there by name.
Yeah, truly.
Oh my God.
Sizzler, we'd pop up to Sizzler in a loo.
Sizzler in a loo and throw things at the glass and watch it slide down.
Egging someone in the car with Anne.
Oh God.
All of the things. Like when we used to go beat hopping and all of that stuff.
Driving the car across the beat.
Doing a burnout in McCallum Park. Bloody hell.
Bibra? Oh, that's a B. B for Bibra. There you go.
Oh, the things. Yeah, truly though. Like I think
the real estate agent?
The bitchy cock though.
Far out.
No, it was you storming into my room in Melbourne.
Looking for
condoms.
Condom
Or lube or
those.
whatever it was. And
Do you know, let's side note, that guy that I slept with, he just had the gastric sleeve surgery as well.
Oh, did he?
There you go. Everybody's having it. It's so funny. Every time I tell someone I have gastric sleeve or I'm at a gig and someone's like, have a drink, I'm like, oh no, I can't. I've just had surgery. I can't drink for another couple of months or whatever. 10 people in the room go, oh, I've had it as well.
Yeah.
It is. And the ward that I was on at the hospital is a specialised ward for people recovering from bariatrics.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable.
Yeah, because a lot of us struggle, I think, so much with it, and it's not, people call it an eating disorder, but
It's not. It's an addiction.
It is an addiction,
Oh,
and it
my
becomes
goodness.
associated
and
with...
I never would have said that until after the surgery because I didn't know it was an addiction.
100%.
Because, like I said, now that I physically can't eat, my mind is constantly...
How much money are you saving, girl, on food?
God, so much.
I know.
I go grocery shopping and spend like $20 or $30,
Yep.
and it's like 2 weeks worth of food.
But it used to be almost like a hypnotic state for us. Like, we didn't even realise we were eating until we'd actually finished.
I would go to KFC sometimes.
Twice a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easily.
Not even realise
Not
that
even
you were
caring.
in the drive-through.
Not
No.
caring.
No.
I was very lucky though because all my my blood work and everything before the surgery came back, I didn't have any high cholesterol, no preset diabetes, nothing. I somehow managed to
So lucky, girl. 'Cause
eat my way through decades
we both
of bad
dodged a
food.
bullet, I think,
and
with
yeah,
that.
far out. Well, do you have anything you want to tell us about before we leave? Are you working on any exciting projects?
Well, all the exciting projects that I've got on this year are currently being affected by coronavirus.
Oh,
because all of these things that I've been invited to do overseas, it's just like, will it actually happen?
Wow.
Because they're
Well,
looking
I
at
just booked a
cancelling.
3-day cruise to nowhere, which leaves Frio and just
I
us
saw
on the
that.
Princess.
Yeah, I
this ship
saw
is incredible.
those.
And yeah, I didn't even think, but someone said to me, they're like, is it going to be safe to do that? And I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that.
It's bizarre because when you look at the stats, for instance, of coronavirus...
You should come on this cruise with me.
When is it?
The first weekend of May. We haven't done any travel together for a while.
We haven't cruised together in general.
We
for a
never
while,
have because you didn't come on that last cruise.
Yeah. All right. Okay,
I'll send you the dates. I think we need to do it.
You're
We
pushing.
need to do it. It'll be hysterical. Just the two of us. Fuck everybody else.
Yeah.
We'll sit in the casino
Some
all
of
day.
the trolliest travel I've ever had
Has been with
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So where can people find you on the internet? It's just Matthew Landers on
MatthewLanders.com.
everywhere.
Yeah, that's it.
On your
Everywhere.
socials.
That's the lot.
Follow him on Instagram. It is highly entertaining. Amongst the flowers, there is a lot of dialogue.
Hysteria.
A lot of catwalk runways and a lot of Kirby.
Yeah. Whatever gets them talking, love.
Well, thank you for being
Thank
here.
you for having me.
You're our first Perth guest as well.
Oh, really?
All our guests so far. Well, I was trying to get all the fringe artists in while they're in town.
of course.
So you've been our first local.
Yeah, right.
And responsible for me being in Perth.
Truly.
Lord have mercy. Anyway, thank you for listening. You can look us up. It's Let's Conversate Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. We've got many, many more episodes coming. So make sure you subscribe on Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, Apple, iTunes, all of that jazz. We upload it pretty much anywhere we can. My name's Dean Misdale. You've been listening to Let's Conversate. We'll see you all next time.
Ta-da.